Hi, my name is Caitlin Blanchfield, and I'm presenting Reassessing Surveillance, Documenting the Impact of Security Infrastructure in the Tohono O'odham Nation. My collaborator Nina Kolowratnik and I are really happy to be able to present this in front of you as a video recording. It's a project we've been working on for the last 3 years. It's a research and visualization project that's an ongoing collaboration with tribal members on the Tohono O'odham Nation. And so instead of remaining here in the corner as a little talking head, I'm now going to invite you into the world of our presentation. So thank you so much, and we're so happy to be sharing this with you. The Tohono O'odham Nation straddles lands that encompass the Tohono O'odham traditional lands encompass thousands of square miles of Sonoran desert in a territory that straddles what is now the border between Arizona in the United States and Sonora, Mexico. Tribal members have historically moved fluidly through this terrain, traveling to seasonal villages, harvesting saguaro cactus, visiting the Sea of Cortez, and performing spiritual walks or runs. The O'odham Nation's constitution determines tribal membership on the basis of a person's ancestry and not a person's citizenship. This means someone with sufficient O'odham blood, born in Mexico, is a member of the tribe, and the tribe is recognized by the U.S. government. The nation today represents only a tenth of a territory the O'odham have inhabited for centuries. This is a territory systematically reduced through invasion, land purchases, and an executive order that the O'odham, never recognized as a sovereign nation by the US or Mexico, were not party to. On what was, until 1917, O'odham land, there is now a United States National Park, a United States Air Force Base, and a United States border. In short, the United States federal government, in one form or another, exercises jurisdiction over 91% of O'odham ancestral lands. Lands once solely understood through O'odham traditional knowledge and inhabited through O'odham sovereignty. Crossing the international border has remained a daily activity and was needed to practice religion and traditional way of life, to visit family, as many of the tribal members have family on both sides of the border, collect traditional food, receive healthcare and education, and partake in a cross-border economy. Freedom of movement across the US-Mexico border is vital for both maintaining aspects of O'odham culture and for allowing O'odham people south of the border to access services not available to them immediately in Mexico. Post-9/11 Patriot Act legislation has changed this historically open terrain and constricted the fluid mobility of its inhabitants. This has produced an incredibly complex and increasingly tight condition of border militarization, one in which divergent understandings of property, connectivity, and permanence have created an impasse in which indigenous rights to the land are seen as incompatible with the perceived demands of national security. In March of 2014, United States Customs and Border Protection awarded Elbit Systems of America and International Towers, Inc. a contract to design, construct, and deploy integrated fixed towers in an unspecified number of sites in unspecified locations along the southwestern border of the United States. And these are some of the companies that they subcontracted. ITI and Elbit's responsibilities extended beyond mere construction and monitoring to in situ testing, ensuring customer satisfaction with their product's ability to detect, track, identify, and classify movement on the border. While sites and numbers remained obscure, the objective of the towers was certainly made clear. They were to be integral nodes in what was becoming an increasingly robust border surveillance apparatus, supporting agents in the field with long-range, 360-degree, all-weather, and persistent surveillance capabilities. The towers would assist CBP in identifying and classifying items of interest near the border. Moreover, the towers were touted as a technology solution for the distinct terrain within US BP's Tucson sector. Currently, CBP has proposed to build 16 integrated fixed surveillance towers in the O'odham Nation along its southern border with Mexico and its western border with the Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument. The proposed towers are laid out in a curved line following the US-Mexico border and then turning at its juncture with the Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument to extend along the Tohono O'odham border into the interior of the United States. Structurally, these towers are pretty straightforward. They're 120 to 180 feet high. They include a base with a propane tank, a generator, solar panels, and an equipment shelter. Their footprint is anywhere from 50 by 50 to 160 by 160 feet wide and includes a parking area for vehicles. They are surrounded by a fence that would then enclose up to 10,000 square feet. And in addition, a 30-foot fire buffer would encase this perimeter fence. The footprint of these towers, though, extends beyond the perimeter of the fence and even beyond the roadways that connect to it. What we can see here is a zoom in on the Guvo district of the Tohono O'odham Nation bordering the Organ-Pipe Cactus National Monument. The towers will be equipped with a range of surveillance equipment. For instance, radio frequency radars that can detect a moving person within 9.3 miles radius. Long-range video cameras to capture everything within a range of 13.5 miles. Radio frequency radar that can detect a moving vehicle within 18.6 miles. And microwave communication receivers that transmit for up to 40 miles. In addition, they will hold spotlights and laser illuminators. And in order for the microwaves to reach from one tower to the next, they must be aligned in an unobstructed path. For comprehensive video and radar feeds, the range of the radii of the towers must overlap, and they do so extensively. In order to find the exact location of the towers, as there is no GPS or GIS data given in the environmental assessment issued by Customs and Border Protection, we went out to the field with tribal elder Ophelia Rivas and looked for metal markers that were already pushed into the ground to mark the proposed tower's footprint. So surveying has already had an impact on the land and on daily life through the creation of new roads and increased harassment on the ground. And it's also no coincidence that along with the construction of the towers comes detention facilities for people apprehended at the border. And it also requires little stretch of the imagination to understand that the infrastructure apparently needed to support the construction and maintenance of the towers, so truck paths that lattice the desert, the movement of Border Patrol officers to nearby stations, the tracks of housing and trailers for mobile officers, are also quite useful in the pursuit of items of interest, be those local residents, U.S. citizens, or migrants entering the country legally or illegally, as well as the persistent harassment of the permanent population of the borderlands. And if it seems that interpreting these towers as a great incursion on the sovereignty of the O'odham people is taking it a bit far, it's not. Not only do the towers' impact extend much beyond their physical footprint, the area of their right-of-way, which is a considerable 6,428 acres, and the Border Patrol that they bring with them are just one more instance in a very long history of the United States government militarizing and occupying Native American land. This is only one in a long chain of systemic rights violations that goes back centuries. An infrastructure of surveillance, which includes patrolling bodies and its attendant culture of fear, has changed a tribal relationship to the land with significant cultural consequences. The towers, like the border fence, become agents of indoctrination. As the widespread opposition to towers by the tribal members show, this is not the case. So how can the expertise and resources of architects and scholars be used to help advocate against these towers? through representations of current and proposed border enforcement infrastructure and their different techniques of surveillance. Our project works towards an understanding of how this infrastructure operates in different administrative zones and its impact on existing cultural and ecological systems. Ultimately, we are intervening in the environmental assessment itself by creating an alternative environmental impact statement. Through analytical mappings and visualization, as well as oral history-based writings, we aim to create a document that truly represents the extent of the holistic impact these towers will have in the terms of O'odham traditional knowledge and way of life. This alternative impact statement will then be used as an activist tool to help community members rally opposition to the towers in their local district councils and ultimately with the tribal council. Current and previous archaeological investigations impose a Western scientific understanding of linear historical time and material culture onto O'odham way of life, and fail to understand that O'odham himdag, or way of life, and history cannot be isolated in precise coordinates nor confined to a 250-foot investigation radius. Instead, thinking about proposed tower sites as specific points on a map requiring federally adjudicated national historic preservation, a true environmental assessment ought to think about how the environment as a whole will be impacted by tower construction and by persistent surveillance, from the penetration of microwaves to the unpredictable patterns of Border Patrol vehicles. The violence of these towers will be abrupt and apparent, as well as passive and unseen. Invisible emissions from towers will affect the presence of living beings for hundreds of square miles. The National Historic Preservation Act and the legal framework that produced it does not recognize a holistic approach to preservation and instead favors specific sites and built structures for protection. What's more, the National Historic Preservation Act assumes an American nationality rooted in a colonialist historical narrative instead of a plural national identity. These sites are in the Tohono O'odham Nation, and their need for preservation should be evaluated according to their significance for that nation in a way that is respectful to tribal culture. Within Tohono O'odham tradition, no place should be prioritized over another, since they are responsible to protect the home that was given to them by Itoy, elder brother, as explained in their creation story. Further, sites of traditional significance to specific religious groups within the Tohono O'odham tribe cannot be publicly displayed for people uninitiated in their uses. Guvo district members have, for these reasons, petitioned to have the entire mountain range where these towers will be installed designated for historic preservation, and their desires should be heeded. The following slides are an attempt to visualize the impact proposed integrated fixed towers will have on the Tohono O'odham traditional tribal lands and all the living beings that they hold. It speaks to the interconnectedness to wildlife and people and the very extensive and fragile connected ecosystem Tohono O'odham members try to protect. The drawings will show a selection of native plants and animals, their locations and habitats, ancestral sites, ceremonial routes, as well as today's O'odham settlements, and how these elements are interwoven with the Tohono O'odham traditional year and ceremonial cycle. As explained by Ophelia Rivas, the Tohono O'odham traditional year is based on patterns of the earth and represents a continuous and interrelated cycle of traditional practices. The drawings respect that no hierarchy in terms of site locations, living beings, nor specific periods of the year should be made. The maps have been produced in close collaboration and based on traditional knowledge shared with us by tribal elder Ophelia Rivas. So what we see here is the actual operating range of the proposed towers in the Guvo district, including coverage blind spots created by projected shadow zones of the natural topography as seen from the tower location. And here we're zooming in to look at Tower 0452. It holds areas with saguaro cactus and a myriad of medicinal plants. The blooming of the saguaro cactus, the ripening of the cactus fruit, and the collection of it represent the start of the traditional year and the start of ceremonies, which are performed throughout the Tohono O'odham at many of the ancestral sites within this tower range. What adds to traditional sites and practices on this slide are the habitats of eagles, javelinas, which are a source of traditional food, turtles, bats, jaguars, and pronged